Okay, cool. All right, so announcements. Homework 3 is due tomorrow. You have until the 13th if you're using the late deadline. But homework 4 will be released around that time. On the textbook, you might already see some like preliminary stuff. That is mostly from last semester. I will let you know when like the homework 4 on the textbook is like what we want you guys to do. Because last semester it was a little different, and this semester we're gonna at least change it up to be Jetpack Compose. And then also another announcement, come to office hours. They're held, I think, almost every day for an hour or two. It's just very useful for like when you're running into issues or when you're especially since we're all new to Jetpack Compose. I think it's a great use of like our time and your time as well. Yeah. So touching on what we learned last time. So we have like this issue here, and we want to basically render a list of like UI components in a scrollable list here. So like on the left, sorry, you have, I believe, Facebook, and then you have multiple instances of not only like a Facebook post, but also like more of a reel up there. And then you have this podcast app, which has a card for each podcast, and the Venmo app, which has a card for each Venmo request. So, more of a question for you guys. Can anyone tell me what is a recycler view? Or anyone want to take a guess? The three of us in the classroom right now. Going once, going twice. Yeah, so the recycler view is basically the native Kotlin way of implementing this this list view of sorts. So if we remember how we do that, we first have to define a data class in Kotlin to hold the sort of like arbitrary data that we want to render here. So some data examples would be like the title of the podcast, the subtitle here, maybe like the day since it was released, and the image. So this would be similar to something over here. And then we're going to define a layout for the card itself. So something in XML might translate to something in like the actual design over here, where you have a card view, and you might have like an image and then like some text and stuff like that. And so then you're going to use a layout manager. This will help define the recycler view, whether it wants to store it in like a horizontal list or a grid view or a mixed view or like a vertical list or any other way of sort of rendering children. And then finally, you're going to use the adapter, which is basically the bread and butter, the class that you need to write in order to use logic with the recycler view. So this defines how new cards are recycled and old cards, sorry, new cards are brought in and old cards are recycled, and how the data is bound to each card. And so we kind of touched on this last time, but we're going to go a lot more in depth today. But a lazy list is just the Jetpack Compose equivalent of the native Kotlin's recycler view. So similarly, or I guess like we kind of abstract away the layout manager stuff and just say you can have two ways of using it. There's either a lazy column or a lazy row, and I believe there's others, but like it's more concrete in that way. You're doing the same thing. You need to define a data class. You need to find some way to store your data in an object. But instead of the XML, we're going to go with a composable function here. So over here, you have the XML, and it kind of like defines approximately how the image will look, or sorry, the design will look. But when we go to the composable function, we're a little more explicit with how we define the function. So we have like an image, and that's an actual like Kotlin function, and text is actual Kotlin function, and text there and button there. And you can see the attributes are similar to the attributes in XML. So you have like a width and a height and stuff like that. And so the reason why we're going to use this going forward is that the lazy list syntax is a lot more simple, a lot more easy to reason with. So you see here, there's just simply like a lazy column object, and then within its scope, you're going to add all your items, and you can repeat them any number of times with the items function. And so why we're using this, yeah, it's just much more concise. It's more readable. You're getting rid of the XML, having to deal with all that, and you're just using the language, the Kotlin language itself. And composables are easily reusable as opposed to having to write them over and over again in the XML. Yeah, and you've seen this diagram before. This is always good to look back on. I posted the slides on the textbook if you guys want to look at that. But yeah, reusability. Write once, use everywhere. You can define your composables to take in any number of parameters, and then that will just like change the design in some way. Yeah, so that ends the recap. So what we're going to try and do today is get something close to this screen here. And I'm going to walk us through it using Jetpack Compose. I know this is the first time we've coded with it, so I'm going to go very slowly, and I'm going to try and explain like everything that goes into writing basically an app the way like Cornell App Dev writes them. So yeah, we can see for our demo goal, we have cards, and we might have seen this before, but they're going to have the name of a eatery and the location where they're at, and there might be like other things you can add later, like an image even. And before we get into that, I'm going to go over it again. Here are the steps to use a lazy list. You need to first define your data class. You're going to need to define the UI for that individual card. So one data class object translates to one card here, and you have to write the actual UI, the composable for that. Then you're going to add like a lazy column or a lazy row or some other lazy list to your screen, and use items or item to sort of repeat that individual card any number of times. Yeah, so I'm going to start here. So does everyone have Android Studio open? We're good for that. Let's open up Android Studio, and then raise your hand when you're done with that. Let's go. No, we're going to start from scratch. So just open up Android Studio, and we're going to do projects there. So what we're going to do, new project. And we were clicking empty views activity before, but we're going to finally start using this empty activity. This is the Jetpack Compose way of writing an app. I mean, I guess it's kind of indicative of like why this one is the new, just like basic activity, is that Android is really pushing toward using this library. So yeah, we're going to click that here. Make sure everyone uses an activity with Jetpack Compose. You can see that there. And we'll just name it, discussion for demo. It's all good. All right, so now we have our new project. Okay, mine finished building. So it's gonna look something like this. You're gonna see here, There's no more res layout file because we're not using XML anymore. Like this, like these are just like maybe like images or stuff like that, icons. We're not using actual layouts and XML layouts anymore. So pretty much our entire app is defined here actually. So you can see here you have set content and just like the theme. You don't really have to worry about that, honestly. What your app is really rendering is this inside function here. So let me run this app real quick and just show you guys. I might not build. Let me see. Yeah, give me 1 sec. If you're running into this issue, like I am, it's just because of the SDK version. So just bump it up to 34 like it says. That. Yeah, so you can see here our greeting composable that takes in a name. It just renders this like piece of text, and you can see over here, it does the same thing. So let's see what happens when we change. Greeting is just like a function. You can see composables are all just like actual functions. So if we just change like the argument that goes in, the parameter, let's say my name. It's going to change here, right? So it's a lot more clear when we have like these function arguments because you can sort of define them a little more explicitly like that. So for now, because we're going to try and get to this end goal here, I'm just going to delete all this starter code. We don't really need this. So this is our empty project. Everyone good here? Right? Okay. So what we're first going to do is create a new composable for like the entire screen. We're going to create a new composable that just represents this entire screen here. So what we can start with is everyone say @composable. And I'm going to write a new function called like main screen. You can really name this anything, but I'm going to name it based on screens. And in this main screen, we're going to basically put in a layout that covers the entire screen there. So it would be something like similar to like a constraint layout that like blows up whatever it's filled into the entire screen. We're going to say, we're going to add a column like so. So column, and you can use an open bracket and a closed bracket to define the column scope. Anything that goes in the column scope is basically a child of that column. So column is a layout, and then everything beneath it will be displayed in like a vertical column. And then right now, this is probably not actually the full screen. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a modifier to it. Modifiers are basically the attributes of XML. They're ways to sort of augment how our layouts, how our UI is displayed. So how we're going to do that is just pass in the modifier as an argument to the column. So what you can do is say modifier equals. If we look at the what's it called? The docs for column, you can see that modifier is just like another parameter to it right here. So we're going to set the modifier to capital M modifier. We're going to use the base class modifier, and say modifier dot fill max width. We're going to make it the max width, and we're going to say fill max height. We're going to make it the max height as well. So everyone good there? Basically what we're doing is modifier is a class, and then it has any number of like helper functions. So you can say helper fill max width, and then you can chain it with another one dot fill max height. So now this column takes up the entire screen. Okay. Let's add it over here. So we're going to say main screen. So now this main screen function will be displayed on our main app. As long as you put it in main activity, this is the function that's going to be displayed, or the composable that's going to be displayed. So we can play around with it. First, let's just write another composable called text. Pretty self-explanatory. Let's look at the docs here. So text is a parameter that's passed in. You can pass in a modifier, you can pass in a color, you can pass in all sorts of things. So if we say text equals hello world, I think that's all it really needs. But if we want to add some extra flair, like a color, you can say color equals color dot, let's say, blue. You might need to import the capital C color object. When we run this again, yep, you have hello world in blue at the top there. Yeah. Let's say we wanted to add some padding to it, because right now it's kind of in the corner there. Why don't we add a modifier to the text itself? We can say modifier equals capital M modifier, the modifier class, and we're going to say padding. You can just like add like maybe like 16 pixels of padding. DP is like it's like a type of pixel that's like independent of whatever phone you actually have. So it'll look better on all phones. And see now it's got like 16 pixels of padding. Cool. Everyone good on that? Any questions so far? And this is recorded. So like, I mean, knowing Jetpack Compose is really important for the next couple of assignments. So if you guys want to look back on the video, it's always like perfectly fine. All right. So I don't see any questions. I'm going to move on here. So let's get rid of this text. And we're going to add the lazy column like we always wanted. So let's go back and look at the syntax. I think I have it in here somewhere. We're just going to say lazy column, and then you can use the smooth brackets, or sorry, the parentheses. But you're always going to need the open bracket and close bracket here to define the column scope. You need it to like somehow throw in like everything that actually goes in the list. So let's go back and go here. Let's say lazy column, capital L, capital C. Add our open bracket and close bracket. And then need to import it. There we go. And yeah. So this is our lazy column. And then within it, there's something called the LazyList scope. Basically, the LazyList scope is everything that's like its child, like everything that's scoped within that lazy column there. So we're going to say items. And we can repeat something like 5 times maybe. Yeah. And this is really just like the same thing as a recycler view. This is handling all of the recycling, all of the like binding, data binding, all of that. So yeah, the thing is we don't actually have something to bind, right? So we're gonna go back to our sort of our flow here and think about the data class that we need. So looking at this end goal, what do you think we should define as our data class? Here, anyone got an idea? Even guess. It's got two things. Each card. Go for it. Yeah, the eatery name and one more thing. Sorry? Location. Perfect. Yeah. So we're gonna need a data class that has both the eatery name and the location within it. Right. So you can look here. This is how you define a data class. You just say data space class space the name of the data class. And then within it, you can write all the like they're not variables because they're all immutable. You can see the VAL, you can't change them. But yeah. So we go here. We can even create a new file for this. Just new file, and we'll name it eatery. So you have an eatery.kt file over here. Now that we're using Jetpack Compose, there's pretty much like no use for creating new activities and stuff like that. You just create composable functions. So what you do is we're going to say data class eatery. This is the file for just our data class here. Oh, I want to use parentheses. So you're using parentheses here, not open brackets, so not brackets. And like Angelina said, we're going to use, we're going to have a variable for name, and we're going to have a field for location. We're all good there? Cool. And now we can go back here. Well, actually, we can't go back there yet. So let's go back to our flow, actually, and think about what we do now. So we've done this. I wonder if I have strike through here. Okay, that's not what I want to do at all. So we have our data class, and now we're going to define a composable for the individual card, basically. So we don't need to make it look exactly like this for now, but we need some way to actually render the two pieces of strings that we have, the name and the location. So what we can do, might as well just create another file while we're at it. We'll call it eatery card. And we're going to write a composable that says it's a function. So fun eatery, sorry, eatery card. And inside that card, we're going to have first of all, we're going to have a column. We're going to need to somehow stack the name on top of the location. So intuitively, we kind of need some sort of vertical alignment of those, and we need a column here. So column, write that down. And then we're going to have two text boxes here, where the text is the name here. Let me import that. And the text is the location here. But what this is going to do, this is all of our cards are now going to say name and location, but we want actually like the specialized or like the personalized eatery cards. So we can just simply just add them as parameters to our function, because again, all composables are just functions. So like we can say like name as a variable here, sorry, a parameter, and location as a parameter. And you need to add I think, yeah, you do need to add the actual type of each parameter, just so Kotlin knows how to infer those types. So now we can replace this with just the actual name parameter. We can replace this with the actual location parameter. Cool. Now we can go back here and actually add our eatery card to the lazy column. So within items that we wrote before, say eatery card, and then like for now we can just say like Morrison on north. And what this is going to do, this is going to repeat Morrison north 5 times. Just for the sake of showing it, we're going to repeat it like 200 times and see what happens. Yeah, so you can see here, this is our card. And I'm not sure. Yeah, you can kind of see it scroll there, even though they're all kind of the same thing. Yeah, cool. So obviously we don't want 200 cards of Morrison North. So let's define just like a list of sort of dummy data. We can do that anywhere really. Or just right in the main screen for now. This is not like the best code practice, just kind of writing your data wherever. But for the sake of the demo, we can just write it here. So what you do, let's define a variable for it. Val eatery list equals, or let's give it a type. It's a list of eateries, right? This is the name of our data class. And we're just going to say list of. And list of is just a shorthand to basically write a bunch of objects in like a sort of comma separated list, and it turns it into a column list for you. So we just say eatery. Our first eatery is Morrison north. Okay, so that's 1. You can just say comma and then write another eatery right after it. So eatery number 2 might be Risley on north. We might have Oakenshields on central. Don't know how to spell it. Oakenshields central. Yep. See here. Eatery. What else is there? Cook on west. Yeah, let me just write one more and then we just copy a bunch of times. I'm gonna say beta on west. So just copy this a couple times. Okay, cool. No. Why? It's all good there. Cool. All right, so now this is our list of eateries. So we can go here. Now we're not really defining 200 and repeating the same thing over and over again. We're going to use the sort of the size of our data set here, which is eatery list. We're going to say eatery list.size. So that's going to go into the count of items. And then what we're going to repeat is basically so items has a index kind of passed in. You can see, it might be hard to see on the screen, but if you have items on your Android Studio, it's going to say IT int. So this is an integer that stands for like the iterator basically, and this will give you the index of the list that you're in. So if we just use let's say, what is our thing? Eatery list. we get like the IT value of it. This will be the eatery at whatever index we're on in the lazy column. So, I mean, there's two ways we can do it. We can just say the current eatery is this one. And then when we pass it to the eatery card to actually be displayed, we just say cur eatery dot name and cur eatery dot location. So this will work, but honestly, even better is just changing the eatery card to take in our eatery data class, and then you can decompose it in here instead. But that's really just up to you. So let's run this. So yeah, now you can see that it's a little more deliberate with like the actual different names. So it looks pretty bad right now because we just have two text cards in our eatery card here. So let's basically just like spice it up a little, add a little design to it. So we're gonna add our parentheses here, and like everything else, we just start adding modifiers to it. So one thing we want to do, modifier equals capital M modifier. One thing we might want to do is first give each card a little space here. So let's first give each column, or the column is like the entire card in a sense. Let's give each column just like a little padding, maybe like 4 pixels. There we go. And we can look in here as well. You can see the name text is a lot bigger than the location text. So we can add a modifier to our name text function here. We're going to say modifier equals modifier dot, oh, actually, sorry, I don't think that's the case. Yeah, so font size is actually another parameter that's not modifier actually. So for text, we can actually just say the font size equals let's say like 20, I think it's SP. Yeah, SP is the unit for a text unit. So these are like the text pixels in a sense. So DP is for like some UIs, SP is for text. Should we go back here? Yeah, so now you can see it's starting to take shape. We have a slightly bigger name. Oh, let's make it even bigger. Yep, there we go. Any questions on that so far? Okay, cool. So what we can do now is kind of add this blue card around it. So what we can do is, let me think of what's the best way to do this. Can we add a color to this? No. Well, I guess what we can start with first is adding like, let me see here. That's not really what we're looking for, is it? Oh, it kind of is. Yeah. So what we can use is just use one of the composables that Google itself kind of created for material 3. You can just say card here, copy in our text. Here, import this. And then you can see here, because this is again another composable, it's going to have its own parameters that you can kind of customize it in some way. So we can say, let's give it a color. Colors equals, wait, can I just give it like a regular color? No, I guess not. So you're gonna say card colors. Okay, yeah. So that's a little annoying. You're gonna have to use a special function to actually pass in the colors for the card. It's true. I forget for now. We'll go back to the colors later. But for now, we can actually define the shape though. So we can say the shape is something called a rounded corner shape. This is going to give us the rectangle that we have here, but with like rounded corners. So the rounded corner shape. And let's say the corners are of like a radius, like 8 pixels. Sure, let's run that. So yeah, you see here now we have the cards, but you can see it's not quite filling up the whole width here. So what we can do is just give it a modifier. Give the card max width. So we're going to say modifier equals modifier dot fill max width. And this is on the card. This can also be on the column though. Actually, it might even make more sense to add it to the column. So this, there we go. Oh, I already have a modifier object there. So I can just go like so. Yeah, so our column, kind of the container for our card needs to fill the max width, and then the actual card object itself needs to fill the max width. So let's run that. Yeah, there we go. Actually looks pretty good already. Is that what we're looking for? Yeah. We can look more at the colors now. We want. Did anyone have questions on anything so far? Is everyone like either here or like kind of knows like the approximate way to get here? We're good on that. Let me see this card color. Ah, okay. So you're gonna use something like so. You're gonna say, let's go back to my Avery card. That's right here. Say colors equals card colors dot, what was it? Card defaults. Card defaults dot card colors. And then you can pass in, I believe, like a container color here. This container color will be the color of this background card. Right now it's like some sort of like light pink, like light purple. So let's say the container color equals color dot, what did we have before? It was like a bluish. Is there like cyan? Oh, there's cyan. Let's run that. Yeah, that's quite blue. Yeah. So, and you can see it still scrolls because it's a lazy list. Yeah, so that's that. Are we all good so far? Any questions? All right, cool. What we can do now, because we have a little more time, we can add like a button to our card. So let's say we have a column. So these are sort of vertically lining our elements here, but we kind of want the button to be like over here somewhere. So what we can do is, let's say, let's define a row further up. That's not what I wanted. A row layout further up here. And let's throw everything we had before in that row. So now what we can do, what this is basically saying is that this row arranges all of its children along this axis. And then because the only child is the card, it's just going to fill up the entire screen. Right, this way. But once we add a, oh, sorry, I lied. I do not want this here. I want this actually within the card itself. So we add a row here. And then like I was saying, let's arrange our text in an actual column. So the text is within a column, but that is within a row itself so that we can add elements like to the right of this text. So underneath the column of text, we can say button. Button is, again, just another composable here. Button. Okay. Does it have text? There you go. There's no text parameter exactly, but what it has is something called content. And content is basically something where we can pass in just like an arbitrary composable to actually show, like, design the button itself. So what we can do is use the open and close brackets again to define the scope. And then let's add a text composable within the button itself. This text is going to basically be what is shown on the button. But this can also be like an image, an icon, whatever. You can customize it how you want. Click. So there's text. What is this asking for? Oh, yeah, you need an on click. I didn't know you needed an on click. What we can do is just say on click equals, because remember everything here is just a parameter to a function. On click equals open bracket, close bracket. This is just the pseudocode for like, or not pseudocode. This is the actual code for like an arbitrary function here. So on click, we can just say, we'll just like log like a text or something. Probably don't want that here. Clicked. Let's try that. See what that looks like. Okay. Yeah. So now there's a button. It's justified just to the right of this text because we didn't add like any space between them. We can look at that later, I guess. Or I mean, you can try that on your own. But yeah, so when we click this button, let's go to our log cat down at the bottom. And let's say the tag for what we had Yep. When you click this button, you can see that we're starting to log these events here. I'm not sure why it's so. Interesting. Well, anyway, yeah. And I mean, just for demonstration, we can also do is this is all saying clicked for every button, but we can pass in like the index itself that we're getting from the lazy column. And then you can actually log with index we clicked here. So let's go back to our main activity and add that index here. So now when we click the first one, it's going to say clicked 0, clicked 1, click 2. Yeah. And over here, clicked 8 because it's like the ninth one from the top. So yeah. All right. We're out of time, but if anyone had any questions on that or anything, any qualms, concerns, yeah, just ask. Go ahead. Yeah, unfortunately, there's no more drag and drop. So you have to think of things a little more like deliberately with the code. But the way it's organized now, it's a lot more like the everything that goes into it is a lot more simplified. We're not going to use constraint layout anymore with all different constraints on the four sides. You're just going to organize all your things into rows if you're trying to go down, or columns if you're rows if you're trying to go to the like left and right, and columns if you're trying to go down. And you can stack them arbitrarily, just go like all over the place. So yeah. Any other questions?